Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Research Works podcast. We're here at EACD, Galway, Ireland 2026. I hope you've been enjoying all of the episodes. We have been releasing them pretty quickly throughout the day, and it's really just to keep everyone up to date. So thank you so much for tuning in for another episode. I hope we're accompanying you on another drive, the flight home, whatever it might be. I'm just so glad you decided to join us. We have a really interesting topic to talk about right now. And to talk us through this topic, I have two guests with me. Welcome to the podcast, Susan Duff. Hello, and Theresa Sukal Mouton.
Hi.
No stranger to the podcast, Theresa.
Indeed.
Now, the topic that really intrigued me was your title, which is Fostering Self-Generated Movement with Low-Cost and Technology-Based Strategies. I love everything about that. We're going to break this down a little bit and start with self-generated movement. Why is that so important? Why do we need to talk about self-generation of movement?
I think the key is basically that we want it to come from the infant or toddler themselves so that we can actually kind of enhance or foster neuroplasticity, but also really focus on what they need and their engagement.
Yes.
That's pivotal.
It is, isn't it? I sometimes do notice, though, when people talk about self-generated movement, that it's not really self-generated from the child sometimes, because we can't help sometimes as I know, I'm a physio. You can't help but to put your hands on and to support and facilitate. At what point do our hands get in the way of what self-generated movement looks like?
Well, I think the whole idea that you don't want to be part of their solution. The minute you put your hands on, you're part of like the regulatory features that they have to conform their movements to. So the more free they are to do so on their own, the better. But also, you can support them, but not put your hands on. So then the supports are there. Like even if they need support in supine or in sitting, they can have support, but the less you have your hands on, the less you're part of the solution.
Right.
Because you don't live with them.
Yes.
You're not with them all the time.
Yes, yes.
So.
And I think that's why we call it so much of the hands-off therapy approaches rather than the hands-on. It's just as a concept is to, I love that, not be part of the solution, that their problem-solving solution.
Yeah, because they're motor, they're trying to solve their movement problems.
Yeah, that's right.
We need to be cognizant of that.
Yeah. And that's really well grounded in science and evidence, isn't it?
Definitely is. Kind of like from a motor learning perspective.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So self-generated movement as being part of skill acquisition, what kind of interventions are we talking about here? And what's your target population? Are we talking how young?
There's a few populations that we're talking about. There are many, but the two populations we're discussing at this conference are infants with brachial plexus injury and infants with cerebral palsy. The cerebral palsy could be spastic cerebral palsy. It could be unilateral cerebral palsy. And, you know, kind of that range, but it could extend. It could extend to, you know, spinal muscle atrophy, others.
Sure, because at the end of the day, learning a new motor task is not unique to certain populations.
No.
It's something that we all do.
No.
And the principle of self-generated movement applies to everyone, doesn't it? It's not just unique to a certain population.
Across the age span.
Yeah, that's right.
Lifespan, excuse me.
Yeah. So what brought together the idea to do this instructional course? What was the mind behind that?
I think that we do research in this area, and we're really invested in having infants and toddlers learn to move themselves.
Yeah.
Because I think we just heard a talk all about, how we progress from passive movement now to active movement, and that's really shown to be most effective, and most people do use that. But then there are ways that you can actually do it at a low cost if you involve devices, or you can involve technology. So we're going to, talk about both.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so let's go there. Talk about the low cost tools, I suppose, that we use to support this.
Happy to do that.
Yeah.
One of the first ones that I used in my research was I used PVC piping to actually build a device that, based on the contingent reinforcement paradigm or mobile paradigm, some people call, I actually had infants that had a brachial plexus injury, engage at 3 months in either a unilateral, they were kind of like tethered to a kind of like a mobile, created mobile with
Wow.
one arm, both arms, or the third was no tethering at all. So really wanted to look at what the difference, and we had them practice at home with their parents,
Sure.
over a month time span,
Yep.
just to see which was better and if this could be efficacious at all. It was kind of like a look-see, just to see if it could work.
An exploration.
And it was cheap enough. I built them all.
I was going to ask you, who built everything?
I did.
You did it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I did it, and it took time, but to figure it out. But once I did, I just, had the PVC piping, and I put the attachment like string, we say, and then I poked, I had a hole in the PVC piping that brought down the mobile.
Right.
So it worked out pretty well, actually.
I love that you can do that. I mean, PVC piping is versatile. I remember trying to, I created a little shower chair with PVC piping when I was in Malaysia.
There you go.
And it's amazing when there's a need, how do you meet the need? And when cost is a barrier and you can't move that, you go, okay, a bit of creativity is required here.
That's true.
Necessity is the mother of invention, right?
It really is, isn't it? And it's just wonderful to think about what we can create. And I think sometimes when we come in from countries like the United States and Australia, the go-to could be like, this is the cost of the device, and we're going to have to, pay a whole lot of money for it. It's almost, not that any of us accept it. We all kind of whinge about it a fair bit, but sometimes you just need to think a little bit differently and to decide. Yeah.
Right. So that's the low cost.
Yeah.
Another low cost, I think Barbara Sargent will be talking about a low cost body weight support device. And I think that is nice too, because, and she has a few others, but that's definitely one, like a low cost body weight support, to help either bring a child upright or even a toddler into that creeping position. I think those things parents want to do. And
they do, and they only have so many hands.
Once a child learns they can be a little more upright, then they're more motivated to move.
What does this device look like, and what is it made of?
I think that device, I don't know if it's relatively inexpensive. It's not necessarily something you may be able to build yourself. It might be something you have to purchase.
Okay.
But like the frame, it's like a frame, and you attach the body weight support, but there's no mechanical component, I don't think. And there's no technology component to it. It's more like just bringing them upright, basically.
It's coming down to this premise that, I love that paper that was written a few years ago now, where mobility is a human right, where we're actually really saying, how do we bridge the gap here of going, we need to get our children active, get them moving, because it's linked to their cognition and their opportunities to explore, and you're just trying to find ways to bridge that gap.
Right.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah. What about the use of technology?
Technology has been wonderful, because kind of back to two populations I've worked with, brachial plexus and infants with perinatal stroke. But the brachial plexus, one of their big obstacles is they move, but they sometimes move in kind of ways that kind of reinforce glenohumeral joint dysfunction. So getting them to move and activate muscle is what you need. So I used EMG biofeedback the first one was to play a video, which isn't always popular with parent groups because of the screen time, but in all actuality, it was like very robust, and it was 80% screen. They looked at the screen 80% of the time when they activated their biceps. So that was very strong, and hand surgeons love that one. Yeah. And then because I couldn't really get funding with using screen time from certain groups, they said, what else could I do? So I worked with a PT engineer, Pete Pidco, and we built a biofeedback unit that now could activate a toy.
Amazing. So
muscle activated toy.
Love
that was then into a kind of like an RCT, but that is it was less potent though, because it was probably like 50% view time of the toy. They habituated pretty quick to it because it wasn't novel. The novelty didn't stay, and it wasn't sustained. So that's an interesting point. So I think it's controversial. Definitely controversial between, if your child has a nerve injury, what would you want? You want them to activate that muscle if they can, because the whole idea of activation is they did have at least a 1 out of 7 on the AMS scale, the active movement scale. So they had some activation. It wasn't denervated. And so we're trying to promote activity-based regeneration.
That's right.
Because you need activity to regenerate.
Yeah.
So that was that one. And now we're onto using inertial sensors like wristwatches, which actually you can't use EMG, but we could use, and what we're using now, which we're using acceleration. It may be better to use angular velocity. That could be something else in the future, but right now we're using acceleration. So first time what we do is actually create a threshold. What is their threshold without a reward?
Sure.
Without a reward. And then once they activate, once they kind of go over that threshold, whether it's EMG, but now with inertial sensors, acceleration, what we have now is a mobile play, because we want to go as young as we can.
Yeah.
I think
and generate that movement really early on. I love, because I think a lot of the time we don't often think about using technology very early on. We only implement it a lot later. That's a big part of what you'll be bringing to this talk as well, isn't it, Theresa, is the implementation strategies, because that's the next part of it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's funny that you should say younger, because that is such a huge body of my work. In this particular talk, I'm actually going to be a little bit on the other end of the spectrum, to be honest.
Yeah.
But thinking, Sue brought together Barbara and myself and her in this kind of disparate way. I wasn't so sure how it was going to come together, but we all have such similar viewpoints around this active learning piece.
Yes.
And how can we amplify the thing that somebody wants to do?
Yeah.
And so the way that I'm doing that and conceptualizing it in this way is the work that I do with frame running, actually.
Yeah, okay.
Because it's a really easy device to move. So it really gives access to that self-generated movement piece.
Yeah.
Because you can make it move relatively easily using a lot of different strategies that you can learn yourself to become the most effective, fastest mover, most endurant mover, whatever it is that you want to focus on.
Sure.
And so it's a little out of character for some of the things that we've talked about before, but another area that I'm quite interested in. And I think this cost is so relative, right? And we acknowledge that, the manufactured frames may be out of the price range for some folks, but, there's ways to get creative. And I've had engineering students work at like modifying off the shelf trikes that are much more affordable to provide additional balance opportunities for younger kids that are learning. And so I think that when you focus on the important principle that you're wanting to impact, you can look at it from both angles.
Sure.
Let's use the highest tech to address it first, and then simplify and streamline and make it more accessible.
Sure.
Or you can say, let's just try it with what we've got.
Yeah.
And see how it goes.
Yeah.
And then maybe we can make it a little sleeker or a little bit more ready for everybody and those kind of things. So it's a really neat way of being very flexible in the way that we think about how to apply technology to these active learning situations. But it's always about the learning.
Yeah.
And always about the
how
contingency.
That. Yeah.
Yes. Amplify what you want to do.
Yeah,
exactly.
And the age appropriateness of it.
Yeah,
that's why you use mobiles with young infants, because that's what they like.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
That's their play.
Yeah.
But
and it's always identifying, and it comes back to the F words, isn't it? What's their motivation? What is that fun element? Because if they're interested, they might just generate lots of movement themselves.
And that's what we need to do, because it's very hard for us as clinicians to actually generate enough movement to, alter plasticity to really make a change.
That's right, yeah.
So,
and you think about the dosage that's required for that task to be learnt. You're going to need adequate repetitions, but it also can't be so burdensome that they can't do it against gravity, for example. So you're still able to use technology or low-tech technology just to help them to actually access and bridge that gap.
And even when I first started doing the PVC piping, I actually tried it in sideline for one infant who had trouble.
Oh, interesting.
And that was like after I had done the successful 3 infants, but there's things you can do.
Yes.
Sidelining is not out of the question for some at the beginning. Or like I said, supported supine or supported sitting.
Yeah.
I think you just have to figure out how you can adapt and make it, so they can do it.
And
that's
I think
the biggest thing.
The biggest teachers that I would say that I've had that make me think that way are parents. Because often when you do a home visit, parents like, it's usually the dad, I have to say. It's like, all right, I've got this idea. Let me show you. And they've rigged something up. I'm like, this is brilliant. And people are actively problem solving, and it's really
And they want to be
inspiring.
part of
See,
it.
they
Parents
do.
definitely want to be part of it.
That's right. Yeah, it's
What
like
a way to
that's
lean into the
co-design.
strengths of the whole family unit in that
That's
situation.
right.
Everybody brings their own perspective to how to support. I love that.
And I love what you said there before about bringing frame running into the picture, because, okay, when you talk about frame running, we think, okay, fitness, you can compete in Paralympic sport, you have all these opportunities, but let's bring it down as well into what it does provide from a learning perspective. It is self-generated movement. You're right, it's easier to move than a walker most of the time. There's not as much resistance.
Yes.
Much more successful. I would say transfers are easier as well. Like, do you mind just talking through about some of the advantages of race running, or frame running, I should say,
Yes.
and how early do you think we can start to use it? Because I've seen tiny ones around.
Yes,
Yeah.
they have off-the-shelf versions that are built for toddlers, and I know some colleagues here in Europe are doing some more formalized trials in that.
Yeah.
But I see a space for it like very early on, at any point in which we can give you supported movement and you
Yes.
can move around your world.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, at any age appropriate time that we expect you to have capacity for movement, infants are born to move, or they're driven to move because they're driven to learn. And so I think what we said before about like not being hands-on isn't about not giving support.
That's right. Yeah.
It's about amplifying what you want to do in the first place. And so by providing a frame or something, even for a toddler, it's giving access to like, where do you want to go?
Yeah.
What do you want to check out?
Yeah.
And how can we give you an easy way to do that? How can we amplify
That's right.
your particular goal
Yeah.
and make it happen? And so I have a little bit less experience of actually the doing part of the toddlers, but I think theoretically it's a beautiful space to have that type of a device that can then grow with you and grow into a community. There's some wonderful spaces around the world that have clubs and really inclusive environments that you learn that skill early and you take it maybe all the way to the Paralympics.
I know.
There you go.
It's amazing. What could be possible, couldn't it?
And just how much they can learn and change their own brain, cognitively,
awareness.
visual perception. They learn.
Yeah.
They get
and a lot
more
of kids don't get the opportunity to go fast. Like to be able to go fast, visual perception, and all that makes a big difference.
Huge.
I was thinking about, whenever I see a frame runner, just to stay on that for one more moment, you know the bikes that you often see people and they can fold them up and then put them in a bag and you can travel with it. I often think frame runners have the absolute potential to be that.
They're actually, I've seen a folding model of it.
You really?
And I haven't tried it out in person or anything, but there's some that have quick release wheels that make it a lot more possible to do that. You still need a bit of space in order to transport, but I think you're right that it's like getting to the point that technology and innovation.
Hold it up. I can almost imagine it.
Yes. I need some engineers to help us with this.
Perhaps a PVC pipe situation could be a solution. I don't know about the safety margins of that, maybe to a particular age, but
I'm thinking of like even cameras, how they're set up, but
exactly,
you'd have to be able to like put wheels on it.
Yeah. There's possibilities, aren't there? And I think we just need to come together and think about it. So, Susan, from you, what would your advice be for parents who might be listening or clinicians that really want to support their children in being more active through self-generated movement, and they have an idea? Where do they even begin to concoct something up?
I think I would first off speak right to their clinician, because I've had parents come to me when I was working full-time clinically and would bring me ideas. And then I would maybe adapt them or modify them. But I think go right to the clinician that you're working with first off. If there is someone you're working with. And if not, I would actually go to a regional center that has PT/OT and see, bring your idea.
We can start to
I think start there, because they're the ones that will actually implement it and try it right away.
That's so true. And it just validates parents' observations. We've been talking about that a lot through this conference, isn't it? It's the relationship you have with families, listening to them. It's their story. It's our textbook, their story. And bringing those ideas to life is a very fun part of it.
Very fun.
Yeah. Theresa, what about for you? Final words with you about how you think this could be implemented and how it could work.
I think considering and focusing on the goal and how to reinforce that, this idea of contingency-based learning, that we don't have to say, move your feet faster, we just say, let's get to the line as quickly as we can, you know, in the frame running kind of example.
Yeah.
Or Sue had some really nice examples of toys that were contingency based. We want to reinforce good strategies without having to say, gosh, that was a good strategy. Because we want to make it more intuitive.
More implicit so that it's without, you know, you can't really say words to an infant. You have to just present something that they're attracted to. And if you make it attracted to enough, they may move. They might not know, like they're moving their biceps or moving their arm makes the object move, but hopefully they get some kind of contingency going that, wow, if I do this, that toy moves. Or
That's
if I do,
right.
you know,
And
I
once
think that's
that
key.
first clicks, it all goes from there, doesn't it? It's just getting it going. To
Then
start
you
off
get the
with.
repetition.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so final thing that I'm asking everyone in this conference about is, because everything's based on F words, and I've just heard F words littered to this entire conversation, really. Susan, for you first, what would be your advice for clinicians to implement more of the F words into their practice? What would you say?
I would say definitely make it fun, whatever age.
Yeah.
You know, because fun kind of equals engagement and pulls people in.
Wonderful.
I think if you can. I mean, like, the fun may differ depending on where they're at and their capacity, but
And that's
I
okay.
would start
yeah,
there.
that's great. Teresa, what about for you?
Yeah, I like to focus on the friends part because I think that social aspect and social learning is a huge motivator for many things.
Yeah.
And to have those kinds of connections really is what can carry you throughout your lifespan. And so particularly in the frame running context, I think it's just such a powerful motivator. And I've seen really beautiful friendships come to life through a shared experience. And I would just say, the more that you can facilitate those kind of interactions, the more likely you are to have an efficacious, intervention or I guess life. Honestly, we all need friends, don't we?
That's right.
There you go.
How many times have we been as therapists and we're working with them and, their sibling comes in or they bring some friends along and suddenly it's happening. You're like, that's all that we needed.
Yeah.
Not me.
You have to work so hard.
That's right. Yeah, and it was interesting even speaking to Rory O'Sullivan, chair of the scientific committee here, and he was saying that out of all the F words, the one that had the least amount of submissions that were put in for this was for friends. And I said, wow, what a great call to action, because we are all we're here at a conference loving the fact that we get to see each other again, and it's inspiring, and we move forward together. So there's a lot there, isn't there?
I think so. I might have to add some additional observational outcome measures or something like this. I don't know.
I think so. Yeah. It sounds really
good.
good. Well, thank you so much both for joining me on the podcast. I loved chatting with you about it today. It's definitely my jam, talking about all this, and I'd love to maybe make a few more things. I get into trouble for making things. Once I have been known for cutting PVC pipe. Probably not in the safest way. Like, I didn't have covered shoes. I can't saw straight, but I think the more practice I do there, I think I'll get better.
That is the primary solution. Thanks for the opportunity to highlight this topic.
To all our listeners, I hope you really enjoyed that. I hope that inspires you to think about things that you can do in your practice and think for these solutions. It's actually the best part of what we get to do, I think. So hope you enjoyed it. I'll talk to you all again really soon. Bye.